Hi. In the last video, we talked about the book, The Fourth Turning, and what the forecast would be for the Anglo-American society for the next 3 to 7 years. We were left with two questions. What has this got to do with fundraising? And how can we prepare as fundraisers for the fourth turning that is unfolding before us? There's a crisis in the next 3 to 7 years. Successful fundraising will be challenging and will look very different. The financial world is already severely challenged. In this video, we're going to look at how we fundraisers can respond to this challenge and what steps are required for us to be successful in the future. Let's turn to it now. First of all, I'm Ken. This is the Empowerment Dialogue for Fundraisers YouTube channel. This channel is dedicated to empowering fundraisers to empower prospective donors to fulfill their philanthropic desires. We do that by bringing up very controversial topics. We respond to each other. Give me your comments, give me your challenges, and we keep working at it together. There's a subscribe button. Please press it. Give us a thumbs up. That helps YouTube spread the word about this channel for fundraisers. So back to the book, and more specifically, what the challenges are that the authors have laid out for the next 3 to 7 years. I'll take their comments and put it in the context of fundraising. Let's look at it now. Here's the first. The challenge is we're entering a time of great change and unknown future for fundraising and charities. What can we do? First thing we can do is read the book. Get a hold of the book yourself, The Fourth Turning. There's going to be a massive challenge to fundraising requiring total organizational response. Start this discussion then within your organization. Be an expert. Raise questions. Ask the questions at the highest level of management and volunteer leadership. You can be the spokesperson. Create the conversation. Start talking about it. Insist that every conference we have, put this on the table. What's the future hold for us, and how can we, as a profession, respond? There's growing mistrust in institution and therefore large and small charitable institutions. The answer to prepare is to become totally mission focused. Bring your mission to life. It is why you get support in the first place. Tell the stories. Engage in dialogue about those stories with supporters so that they understand that your organization is the fulfillment of the mission and you're not an institution. Operate with crystal clear accountability that's being asked for, and that helps minimize the growing mistrust. Always create a feedback loop to demonstrate the impact that every gift has on the mission. Focus on local community, taking care of things closest to home. People will start to think more locally. Develop personal engagement with everyone who cares about your mission. Find ways to talk to everyone. Treat the group as a community of individuals. Use that language. Train the whole fundraising team on human connectivity skills. This is your future. Redefine stewardship then to include personal interactions 4 annually, if you can do it. Listen to how your donors want impact your mission. Get into that dialogue. Set up clear measurements of stewardship and keep enhancing. Have them keep getting better. If you're telling stories, tell local stories. Take the mission and localize it as much as you can. There will be changing values to an expanding sensitivity to manipulation, distrust in conventional marketing. We have to be responsive to what donors want, and don't expect them simply to be responsive to what the organization wants. Those days are over. Move away from marketing-driven fundraising towards strategic philanthropy, which is personal philanthropy, leadership, major plan giving, or blended gifts of all of those programs. Your future revenue depends on this. There will be financial upheaval with huge uncertainty. we have to count less and less on annual cash donations. They have been drying up, and they will dry up even more. Learn the technical aspects of gifts of different types of assets. Assets people will have still. Educate yourselves and prospective donors on them, and work with these prospects to use those assets creatively, using the right assets at the right time. Develop the best planned giving program imaginable. Gifts of assets after death will be the legacy that boomers, who hold most of the wealth, will leave behind to the causes they care about. There will be a devaluation in general of assets, equities, property, a devalued dollar. Eat, live, breathe planned giving, including blended gifts of assets during and after lifetime. That's where the future of growth in philanthropy exists. There will be increased widespread poverty with supply chain breakdown, including food supply disruption. During the crisis, you must become the beacon of hope. You have to speak that way, and your organizational values must reflect new societal values that are emerging. Fear will be widespread. Go back to your roots. Pay attention to the generational differences that we will discuss below. Fear for survival, only supporting those closest to you, all of the above. Strauss and Howe go into a lot of detail at the end of their book about the generations during the fourth turning, how each generation can ideally act to move the transition through crisis into the new high. I want to outline and speculate on what kind of fundraising approach and cases for support would work for the different generations as we fundraise over the next 3 to 7 years. Let's look at them now. The generational fundraising approach. For boomers born 43 to 60, the boomers will become ideally the prophets. They will step back. They will acknowledge their moral and material excess and yield authority to the millennials. That is their ideal role. Say, hey, we kind of screwed up this world, but we learned a lot and we'll share our wisdom. Boomers hold the wealth, and that will be diminishing, but must go through significant change. One they're not used to, by the way. The fundraising appeal must be to the future, to establish a foundation for a new societal order. Appeal to their idea of legacy, to help their children create a new society with new values. The charitable world will be part of this redefinition. Gifts of final assets will make up a large part of this legacy. Boomers will realize as they age their complicity in the unraveling and the crisis. They participated in getting the world to where it is now, but they can do something about it. They can supply the resources for the redefinition of a new, vital, healthy society for their children and their grandchildren. Lasting gifts will be life-defining. Speak in that language as they relinquish professional and voluntary leadership roles. Gen X, born 61 to 81, they must supply as an ideal role these survival skills that are necessary during the crisis. They will become the repairers and the mediators to help with this transition. That's what they're good at. That's how they're needed right now. Transfer of power from boomers to millennials, with the Gen X helping with that transition. So the philanthropic appeal to Gen X must be presented as the necessary resources to help shape a new society and a new charitable order. Cases of support would include survival of the mission for the future, building the new charitable framework to support new order and necessary resources to maintain overall civic order and cement the new values that are evolving. They're facilitators. Gen X's can also play a critical role in voluntary leadership as builders and mediators, keeping the organizational focus on transitioning the charity through the crisis and into the new high. Millennials, born 82 to 2002. These are the new leaders. That's what happens during the fourth turning. They take over the reins. They must discover in themselves new strong values. for the next 100 years by taking a hard look at the boomer values that have led to this crisis. They then need to assume leadership to meet the crisis with optimism, strength, and generosity towards and concern for civic values. The mantle goes onto their shoulders. These are the new leaders. We speak in these terms for philanthropic and leadership support. It is one of leadership. We ask them to be the leaders through financial resources and voluntary time. Strong basic mission values must be presented to overcome the cynicism that will unfold. Messaging needs to include that it is up to these leaders to form the basis of the new society through their charitable actions. Once they've accepted this mindset, they will become your volunteer leaders of the future. Gen Z, born 2000 to the present, they're not quite there yet when it comes to philanthropy. That's the generational focus. Some charities will merge and some will disappear. That is the extent of the change we're going through. This is going to be hard work for fundraisers. As the society changes, fundraising will have to change as well. And our organizations will have to change to survive and flourish in the future, in the new world order. In many ways, change has already been prevalent in our work. Consider these. Marketing-driven annual fundraising has been on a downward trend for 10 years, and it's going to get very much more tough. Fewer individuals are giving more through leadership, major, and plan gifts. Fewer giving more. That will continue, and we have to get really good at that. Our organizations are being trusted less and less, and more accountability is being demanded. Those are the existing trends. Those are also the trends of the crisis, and we're feeling them as fundraisers. The pandemic was a good dress rehearsal for the crisis that is forthcoming. Let's look at that. What happened? There was a dramatic increase in the desires for donors to have personal interaction. And as people get more and more isolated in the fourth turning, they will want more and more of that. There's a strong increase in planned giving interest and willingness to take action. More traditional impersonal fundraising approaches were less and less successful and will be so in the future, especially as institutional trust disappears. The financial world will be very, very different. Think Great Depression. Our regular, consistent donors will not have the resources, or they will be fearful of expending the resources they have. This will be a challenge for our creativity to work confidently with donors to utilize the existing assets the right way to protect them and protect the causes they care about. Fundraising has to keep changing as the societies we serve also change. And we're going through a dramatic change in the next 3 to 7 years. We have to be smart, strategic, flexible, and risk doing things differently. It's easy to get discouraged when we apply the prophecies of the fourth turning, which happen every 80 to 100 years through history, when we apply them to fundraising and our responsibilities to our organizations and to our own lives. There's also a critical opportunity to be ahead of the curve, to help shape that new society that will emerge in 3 to 7 years, to prepare and assist the inevitable change and to work towards a renewed, vital, vastly different, reinvigorated first turning the high that sets society on its path for the next 80 to 100 years. You can be a critical part of that through your fundraising efforts and skills. I hope this discussion was helpful to you. Having done it, I'm not as fearful about fundraising. I think we can all make a huge difference in the future. Thank you for listening and participating. And until the next video, good fundraising.